best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. And Joe, how are you?
I'm all right, Perch. How are you?
Great. We're joined by a special guest. We always love to have you. Sean, how are you doing?
Hey, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you're doing me a favor here. I know you thanked me, Perch, but I need the traction. I don't know if you heard about the strange rollout of my book, but it's good to for me to finally take some action and get out in front of it, try to get my numbers back up.
Yeah, well, it's interesting though, because the word so I pushed around for some people, say, how is White Knight 3? How is Beyond the White Knight doing? And the comic shops are saying it's doing incredible because it's selling out everywhere. So that's great news, right?
No, whenever you sell out, I feel like we left money on the table, right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, issue 2 is sold out as well. I just found out it's Monday, the 25th. I'm not supposed to tell anybody, but this won't come out for a few days, so it's not a big deal. So we're going to go into a second printing for that. They're thinking about reprinting issue 1, but they're thinking about combining issue 1 and 2 to reprint. So people who haven't been able to get their hands on them and don't want to spend $40 on eBay can get caught up.
That's
and I don't know. I asked them, like, is there precedence for doing this? This sounds kind of weird. So I feel like we're going to get a reverse hockey stick here. And I feel like I would have had a top 10 book if the rollout hadn't been botched. But we're doing the best we can right now to get our numbers back up. And unfortunately, Perch, we're doing 1 in 25 variants for all of them.
Yeah. Well, I'm no fan of variants, but I understand. Now, who's doing the variants? Are you doing the covers for them?
Well, I do the open variant, but we've got J. Scott Campbell. We've got Fiona Staples, Dustin Wynn, Jimmy Chung, a few others. Greg Capullo, I believe.
Wow, that's quite a
J.
name.
Scott Campbell. Did I ever say him? Yeah.
You said Jay, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm normally not a variant guy, but this is the game the industry is playing, and my boss has pushed back on me. So what are you going to do? Let's see if it works.
Yeah, no, it is the game the industry backed into. I wish they didn't do it. I wish they were in this position. But more importantly, I like, but going back for a second, I like this idea. So you think they might reprint the first 2 issues in one? Yeah, that'd be pretty market kind if they did that for people. I
think if you did that, so you got a 48-page book, if you charged less money for it, like $3.99 or even less, I would push for black and white. I got a big there's a big thirst for my stuff uncolored. You can't do it with every artist, but for me, it's for some reason works. And DC doesn't quite get that, so I'm telling them, like, you guys are leaving money on the table. You should release all my stuff uncolored, and they don't seem to get it. So maybe if I do it with this, not only will people re-buy it because now you have a new version uncolored, but people who didn't get a chance to grab anything can now get issues 1 and 2 and get caught up. But now you're going to have 1 and 2 black and white, and then the rest of them will be in color, and maybe that's annoying as well. I don't know.
What do you think, Joe? What do you think?
Well, they did do with Tom Taylor's Dark Knights of Steel. They did do a reprint of just issues 1 through 3 at one point. So they have done that recently.
Okay.
So that's probably what they did. It'd be interesting to pull the numbers on that and see if maybe that was how that went. But the way they did that, it was like square bound. It wasn't like a floppy.
Okay.
I'm interested to see. Frankly, I'd love to see a couple experiments going on, knowing that they're all not going to work. But could they reprint issue 1? Could they reprint issue 2? Could they put 1 and 2 at a lower price, black and white? Man, if I'm DC right now or Marvel or any of them, I would absolutely be trying some of these experiments to see. Manga somehow seems to be selling in black and white. Maybe we could take some of these this work, lower the price, sell it in black and white, see if that doesn't fly off the shelves.
Yeah, I would love it if they just collected my shit in black and white, made it Tankobon style, and just hit it on the shelf with a Viz book and just see if it sells. People buy it by accident, Not that I draw manga, but I don't know. There's a little bit of a crossover, I guess. But
no, absolutely. Yeah, there's manga style that resembles yours. It's not all just the same kind of art style.
DC already has that Unwrapped line though with Bat books. Why haven't they ever done that with White Knight? Because they do the black and white unwrapped for like Hush and some of David Finch's stuff. They've done unwrapped.
Those people may all be gone.
Yeah, they did. Zorro. Who's the artist? Rizzo. I think they did an unwrapped. Yeah, but it's been a while since they've done that.
Yeah, unwrapped Long Halloween. They've done it for a lot of.
I think all those people were gone 2 layoffs ago. But I mean, man, they absolutely should just take the first White Knight volume, put it in a Tonkabon format, put it in black and white, do it but then push it to the bookstores to, position on the shelf in the manga section, not in with DC. Yeah. Just put it there under Batman.
Right.
I mean, it'd be so clever for DC too, because then they'd have Batman in 2 spots. They'd have it in manga, they'd have it over in the regular. You get to play out of both games. That'd be great. I
would even put some Japanese writing cover dress on it just to make it look like, oh, this clearly isn't a DC book. This is obviously manga. Let's just put it over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You could have at one point just one of the characters just super horny.
Yeah.
Change some of the dialogue. It'll be perfect.
Like that Dick Island. What's it called?
Dick Fight Island. I did a review of that. It will be out by the time this interview goes up. That is the gayest comic I've ever seen.
Nice.
You can't get mad at it. I mean, it is like LGBT friendly. So
yeah, no, I mean, it is exactly what it claims. Like, if you buy and you're like, there's not really going to be a dick fight on an island. There absolutely is.
So are they hitting each other with their dicks?
Yes.
Like slapping each other in the thigh and trying to like teabag and stuff like that?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's a tournament on an island.
Hey, Robin, whack.
we should get a group of people together. This is one where I'd love to get you and Jeff Thorne, given how he gets shy about these kinds of topics. Joe Case, get a bunch of us all on, and then we'll just all look at Dick Fight Island together. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I think so too, man.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to ask you about White Knight. So obviously the biggest news of all of White Knight is that Terry McGinnis is half Asian.
Yeah, that's the most important thing,
How did that happen?
Oh man, I wish I hadn't said a goddamn thing. I always kind of thought he was half Asian, and there's no reason to, because his parents are clearly white. But there's so much kanji in Neo Gotham because it's based on Blade Runner that I'm like, oh, heavy Asian influence. He's got straight black hair. He's good at karate. I mean, I just thought he was Asian.
Stereotyping there. Way to go.
I know. I was 12. What do you want? Or I was a little older than that, but I never really revisited that thought. And then I realized later on, oh shit, he's white. That makes sense. But I'm like, why didn't they make him Asian? Like, there's so many white men in Batman's life anyway. So for this, I thought, well, let's make him half Asian for sure. Let's finally plant the flag and just get that done. And it's not the point of the story at all. It doesn't.
No, it hasn't come up.
Like one person wrote me and you should name his mom this because this is a traditional Japanese name, and that would really shove it in the faces of conservatives. And I'm like, I have a lot of conservative readers who like that he's half Asian too, and they were confused as well. Because at age 14 they were racist like me. But in this interview I did, that's the headline that got grabbed, and that's what a bunch of websites went with, and that's why for a few people on Twitter were just saying this is another woke trash blah 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 book, but it doesn't really amount to much. I mean, 90% of my reviews and comments were generally positive, but there was this Sean's trying to be woke, and then there's this pushback where no, Sean's a copologist. He's clearly for police and he needs to be canceled. So jury's out on me, I guess.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
If it helps any, and this is an absolutely true story. So apparently the creators of Terry McGinnis intended him to be at least Asian or half Asian, but concerned that the kids who are watching the cartoon would not gravitate to an Asian name, they went with McGinnis. And that is absolutely true.
I didn't know that, man. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, I'm not really one for just doing something as a stunt just to get headlines. I'd like race to be inconsequential. I'd like it to not fucking matter if you were gay or straight or blah, 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 blah. I know we're not there yet, but I feel like that's
100 years.
Yeah. When I made him half Asian, I got at least 100 messages on Instagram from Asian dads and moms and kids who were like, finally I can see myself in this character. And I feel like when you hear that phrase on Twitter, like, oh, I can finally see myself, like that's sort of like oh, here we go, another culture war thing.
I've never believed that. So that's awesome. You got mail. You actually got, I'm dead wrong. You got mail.
100. I'm not even lying. About 100 of these over a few weeks. One was a dad. He's like, I grew up and there's all these white characters and I like He-Man and Bruce Wayne. But for my kids, all I have to show them is Shang-Chi. So it's good to know that I can like get this comic and point and say, hey, this could be you one day or whatever. And he's not, it's just weird. Like because we're all white, you just take for granted that everything created in 80s cartoons was generally a white guy doing stuff, and I think about my black friends who had to they like Bruce Wayne, but it must have been kind of a hurdle for them to be like, this guy doesn't look like me, but he's Batman. So that's cool. And as white dudes growing up in this country, we don't really have to think about that,
Right.
That's the most woke I'll sound, but it really was nice seeing the positive feedback because representation really does mean a lot to people. And, these messages were absolutely sincere and heartfelt and it felt really good. And I had no idea it was going to be that big of a deal, but apparently it is. So there we go.
It's funny. Today was also, I got a mail from someone talking about the Connor Hawk who they revealed is asexual. And I got the guy's like, it meant a lot to me because I am asexual and I've never seen it before. So now I'm having to rethink my whole belief about these things.
Yeah. It's hard to get 100 messages and to meet people at shows who are like almost with tears in their eyes, so happy that there's an Asian Batman in some way. And it sounds so silly I don't know. I didn't think it was that big of a deal really, but it really does mean a lot to them. So I'm glad, and that stuff's more powerful than any kind of bullshit culture war attack, of course,
Yeah. But all that said, it doesn't factor into your story at all.
No, not at all. I did. So I have an African-American Robin. And when I pushed for Robin to be black 10 years ago, it was because I was woke and I'm like, there's too many white people. It's about time we had a black person. Let's just fucking make him black. And finally I was able to do that in my own book. And I got resistance for a while to make Duke Robin. And they were thinking that he was going to be in like this green cape with bell boots. And I'm like, no, he's going to be like a Mortal Kombat character. He's going to be like a cool Robin with a hood and all that stuff. So I finally got that in there. And I had some dialogue where the first time he appears, he says, about time we had a black Robin. And as I've watched the culture war stuff explode in the last 3 years, I decided to just get rid of that line completely. So he shows up, he's Robin, he happens to be black, and no one says anything, just moving forward, like it's normalized. So I decided not to play with that. Yeah, just I feel like maybe 3 years ago I would have added that just as like a little, haha, finally, but now I don't want to trigger people. I just want them to read the book. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And Duke Thomas, I mean, they were building to, well, it felt like Scott Snyder was building to that in his Batman book. So that couldn't have come as a big shock what you did was a natural progression of that character.
Yeah. Well, so I did this book with Scott, Detective 27, and there was a bunch of short stories. And one of the future versions of Batman, Robin could be whatever. So I just made him black. And I thought about calling DC and asking them. But then I thought, they're going to have a meeting and then they might say no. And I know they're not against black people, but I just know how these things get bogged down by committee. And if they do decide to do a black Robin, then they're going to give it to some big name and it's going to be planned out in 6 months from now and they're going to screw it up. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to take a picture, put it online, tweet it and say, hey, first black Robin, everybody. So that day, Dan DiDio gets up. He's probably planning on a really relaxing day at work. And he gets in and his phone's going off the hook. And he's getting calls from like USA Today and Time Magazine asking about African-American Robin. Did I ever tell you guys this story?
No, this is fascinating.
No.
Okay.
This is new, yeah.
So I get a call from Larry, who is the talent manager of sorts. And I like Larry. I've known him a long time. I call him a friend. And normally Larry calls me when I say something stupid online. So I ring. Hey, what's going on, Larry? Hey, Sean, how you doing? I'm like, Larry, are you calling about Black Robin? He's like, well, we really at DC really love to push diversity and blah, 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 blah. But, it did catch us a little off guard and we're just wondering the best way to move forward. So I was like, Larry, it's just ridiculous. It's taking this long to get a Black Robin. And I'm saying like Black Robin this, Black Robin that. And he's like, let me stop you right there. Stop calling him Black Robin. Call him African American Robin. And I'm like, I invented him. You don't get to tell me what to call him. So at this point, Scott Snyder is realizing there's this like not controversy or whatever you want to call it. So controversy. So he calls me and he's like, hey man, what happened? I was like, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to, ruin your Monday, but I just thought it was time for Black Robin. I just said, fuck it. So he goes, okay, well, let me create something for him. I think I'm going to name him Duke Thomas and we're going to turn him into a Robin. And then he's going to be his own character and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, fine. So I got off the phone. And I'm like, yay, I did my my good deed for Black people. You're welcome, everybody. I guess
African American people.
What? Sorry. Literally white knighting them, I guess.
That's the name of the book.
Later that day, I got a call from an editor friend of mine named Joe Hughes. He used to work at Comic Alliance, and he's Black and African American. And he called me and he's like, hey man, I know you and I know DC. I'm guessing you just sort of did that shit without asking. And I was like, yep. And he's like, thank you, brother. And I really appreciated him saying that.
That's awesome.
But then Scott turned them into the Signal, and then the Signal went away. And then when I was writing White Knight, I'm like, well, I wanted to use Duke Thomas because I kind of accidentally created him. But I'm going to age him up like Luke Cage and just sort of take it from there. So that's how Duke Thomas came to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never knew that. That's all right. So when they put him out in the movies, you're getting a big check.
And I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's legally, I think he's derivative because he's a Robin, but I'm not sure. Actually, that's a good question for my lawyer. I'm gonna look into that.
Get yourself paid.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I love that story. So we should probably say at this point some spoilers for White Knight. So if you're ready to talk about, so nothing we've said. I mean, spoilers. He's half Asian, Jerry Mcginnis, but. All right, you've left the channel at this point if you don't want to be spoiled. So your big reveals. So you've had a couple. So issue 1, it ends with this kind of big reveal. The Joker's still out there, but it's not the Joker. The Joker's literally in Bruce's head. How'd you come across that idea?
I had another story I was planning to do with Creator Own years ago where I think it was Punk Rock Jesus. I wanted the bad guy to come back to life, and he was a microchip inside the main character's head, but he was there to help, not to be a villain. And I've never got around to doing a sequel to Punk Rock Jesus, so I thought, what if Joker used Mad Hatter technology and put his essence literally in a microchip in Bruce's brain? And it's been lying in wait for all these years, and it flips on when Bruce needs his help, which is sort of like the vague understanding of what the hell is going on. So at the end of the book, Bruce sees Jack Napier, or Joker, alive and completely not aged. So in issue 2, he starts to try to punch him and his punches go right through. So Bruce is like, what the hell is going on? Is this like a hallucination? Do I need Joker to keep moving forward? And Joker's like, man, I'd love to give you that Freudian wedgie, but sadly, no, I'm just a microchip inside your brain. And Bruce flips out because he literally can't get rid of Jack now. And what starts out as annoying turns into very helpful because Gotham's completely changed. Bruce doesn't really know where anything is. And Jack can be kind of like his Jarvis or his Robin or his Alfred and sort of like download information. He can be his eyes. He can say like, oh, there's 3 cops behind you. Duck when I say, things like that.
It's a way to level the playing field now that Bruce is older.
Yeah. But it's also fun because Bruce, insists on doing things alone, and Jack being with him gives him someone to talk to. And there is totally this like bromance buddy cop vibe that starts taking over. And I found myself really, really enjoying the interaction between the two of them. It's not a comedy, but there's a lot of like, when the Joker leans in to talk to Bruce, he purposefully leans in too close. He'll like boop him on the nose every now and then. And it's just stuff that drives Bruce up the wall. But I feel like the people that are shipping, a lot of fanfic deals with Joker and Jack and Bruce Wayne and Harley and all that stuff. I feel like people that are into gay romance with Bruce and Joker are going to have a lot to play with here.
Yeah, getaway style. It's clever. I mean, Joker's played out, I think, in a lot of the kind of the mainstream comics. People are struggling what to do with him, and this is a nice new. This is new. We haven't seen this before, and that's unusual for comics.
Yeah, well, I was worried because I know Scott went into Batman running around with Joker's head in a jar, and I was gonna go with the whole like, is it actually a microchip in Bruce's head, or is it just a figment of his imagination? But I think Scott went there, so. Other than that, I don't know of anyone that's done this, but I tried to steer away from what Scott did, of course.
Yeah, no. I think one of the Arkham games kind of has something like that, where it's like, but I think that's it.
It's relatively new ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a logical. Like I said, I do like, you've had some time pass. Bruce is older. You got to do some things to kind of level up the the playing field, because otherwise, as an old guy, he should be just getting his ass kicked everywhere.
Yeah, and that does happen, especially with Terry in a stolen bat suit that's like way stronger than Bruce's. But like Bruce doesn't trust Jack at all. But when Bruce is getting attacked by cops, Jack is like, grab the baton. There's a weak spot in their armor. Hit it right here, and the guy goes down. So Bruce starts to trust Jack. And then there's this sort of strange relationship with Bruce and Harley that's also we're revisiting. And Jack has this weird, like, he's sad that he's dead. He wishes that he could be there for Harley, but he can't. And he's really glad that Bruce is there for her. And Jack is totally pushing the Bruce Harley romance and trying to pull the strings like he always does. Like, even though he's a good guy and he's Jack, he still can't help but try to be manipulative,
I like, so that gets to the other big spoiler. So you had a big kind of this cliffhanger reveal in issue 1. And then you get to issue 2,
right?
Which I got to make sure it's out by the time this is.
I already spoiled it, so I keep playing with my light. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's gotten dark here, and I forgot to turn the other lights on. So I had the orders. Something went wrong with the rollout of Beyond. Either the shops didn't get the message, someone at DC dropped the ball. We're not really sure what happened. And when I realized the numbers were way lower than they should be, I called a meeting and I was like, guys, why am I catching this? What do we do about this right now? And that's what got us into doing variants and stuff. And one of the things they said is just spoil the story. Go ahead and if you got a big reveal coming up. So the big reveal is that Bruce and Harley are married. They've been married. And you'll find out in issue 3 that the reason that they're married is because she was going to be forced to testify against him. So she married him to protect him because spousal privilege. So it wasn't like a wedding with a white dress or anything like that, but they're technically married, which is interesting because they have this sort of strange closeness that people are really pushing for. So normally I'll ask DC, I'm like, well, why don't you guys if spoiling things only helps sales, like the way I just spoiled that, why don't you spoil everything? And he goes, well, the reason we don't spoil things is just because creators don't like it. But honestly, if you spoil things in interviews, like, it doesn't actually hurt sales at all. It only helps. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I'm curious what you guys think.
Lying inside. I hate all this, but yeah, go ahead, Joe.
No, I don't think that's entirely true. It depends on the kind of spoiler. Right. I think every spoiler is an individual thing that needs to be tackled. I think the ones that you said make sense. They're not the kind of things like, it's not like, oh, and then at the end, Bruce murders Harley or something like it's not something like that, where I think, like, if you're spoiling the very end of the book and say, like, so and so gets murdered, I think that can kind of hurt things. And so I don't know, but you see stuff like that. I would, but saying that, I feel like people did complain, for example, that Trial of Magneto being spoiled by the fact that Inferno was going on almost at the same time, that would hurt Trial of Magneto. But I'm pretty sure, based on just like tracking the sales of that, and part of that is because stores already ordered it, etc. But like, there wasn't like a big drop off. It's not like it went from like, oh, we're moving 60,000 copies and now we're down to 10,000 copies because everyone knows. So like, I I think there's some logic to that, but I think long term, that approach creates a level of like apathy that I don't think you really want in people, because I feel like over the years, part of what's hurt comic sales is the fact that, oh, I can just go on Wikipedia and find out everything. I mean, I remember it probably 15 years ago when that started to happen, where I'd be talking to people and they sounded like they were all caught up in the comics, and I'd be like, oh man, so you read the last issue? And they're like, oh my God, I haven't picked up a comic in like 3 years. I just read the Wikipedia on like the characters I like, and it tells me what they're up to, because I still like the characters and I like to be caught up.
Right.
You know? So yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. I think, no, I think Joe's right. I think also there's different types of spoiling it. I think when one comic spoils another comic, it feels to the reader like stupidity has gone on, not like, it's intentional, or like there was like an interview. I mean, just the comics, we always assume that the printing and the distribution got out of order somehow. And it just feels like people are a bunch of dumbasses. Yeah. The spoiling it via USA Today or those kinds of things often feels kind of like it's it feels very like a corporate PR move. Yeah. And I think what you did is you spoiled it on Instagram, I believe, right?
Yeah. I had a meeting with comic shops. So retailers we had about 60 of them across the country come in, and I thanked them for their hard work and how they're the frontline customer and all that stuff, which is true.
Yeah, awesome.
And I asked them what we could do better next time. Did they not understand what this was? Why did they underorder? There's also a printing error that was totally out of anyone's control. Right. But I wanted to know, like, what did I do wrong? And they said, well, we didn't get a poster this time. And I thought, oh, why didn't we include a goddamn fucking poster like we did the last 2 times? Just hanging a poster on the wall as people walk in might have fixed this entire problem. So we're sending out posters now, better late than never. So you'll see them in your shop soon, and hopefully we'll get this thing jump started. And when I looked at my numbers, they were about half of what they should be. And my wife's book did better than mine. No offense to my wife, but fuck her. She should be doing better than me.
Yeah.
She hasn't listened to this show.
She's blowing me right now. No.
That's why we don't do video on Roof.
Yeah, that'll get me canceled, not the Black Robin. No, she's putting together her some YA stuff, and another DC book too that we're pushing for afterwards. I might as well spoil this too, because I said in the meeting with these retailers, I actually said a lot of spoilers to them, and I said, I'm asking you not to put all this stuff online yet, but I know shops don't like it when customers gets information before they do. So if a customer walks in and is like, oh, I heard Harley's getting married to Bruce or whatever, shops hate being caught off guard. They love to know that ahead of time so they can order. So I told them all like where the entire story was going. I even gave them the end of the story. And all 60 of these retailers, no one has posted anything online. So there's I was really glad. I didn't know that would always work out that way. Actually, me talking about it now might ruin everything. But I told them where the story was headed, how it's going to end, what I plan on doing in the future, ideas for spin-off books, trying to tell them about like an expanded Murphyverse and all that. And they were all excited because they know that that's product that they can sell. And at the end, I said, if you got customers who really want to know, you can tell them, but try to keep this to yourself. We do want to like keep some of the secrets so that nothing gets spoiled, but this is where we're headed. So get ready to order more of issue 7 or 8 or issues that introduce new characters. So they like having a heads up, and it's just crazy to me how few. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of shops feel like they're completely disrespected by publishers, which I think is insane because shops are the customers, and I don't know why there isn't more action done to try to include them on some things. Like a lot of publishers even think of retailers as annoying or stupid because we put the book out and we wrote the description. Why didn't these idiots order it? Like if there's ever a problem, they just point to the retailers. And I go, it's really hard being a retailer. 1, 2, you've got multiple magazines and pamphlets you have to go through now just to make sure you're getting everything. And I try to give them the benefit of the doubt as much as I can. And if there's a reason why they didn't order a lot of my book, I think there was a technical problem that happened. I think if they knew that it was coming and what it was, if it was like the big event, then this wouldn't have happened. But something went wrong in translation. And because my name has selling power and I got angry and I showed DC, like, listen, my number should have been double. Like, I'm not upset for my ego. I lost you money too. You lost me money. Like, we need to look at this because this is like a unforced error, as a friend of mine would say.
No, but it's absolutely true, though. I mean, and part of what might help retailers as well is if they put less books out, so they can actually order, like they can take the time, look, and make a decision and push a book and get people buying certain things instead of having so much out there. No one can do any research, and half the books or so, if not more, from the big two, they have to rely entirely on people with pull boxes or maybe just ordering a few for the shelf. I mean, things like that help.
Yeah.
It's a different thing to get angry when your source of anger is, I'd like to make me and you money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to really go like, oh, fuck off, Sean. We don't want money. You can't let go of easy money. I mean, and that's the problem here. And this and really kind of this book. But the other, let's see, I don't want to get you into full trouble here, but the other thing that confused me about your launch, it's just like pouring salt on a wound. So when they announced that this book was coming, and you and I had been talking, so I kept my secret, right? I didn't leak anything, but your book was coming out, and the same day they announced your book coming out, they also announced a Batman series by Tom King, and it's Batman fighting some classic villains and everything else. And Tom King is a big name, and he's going to appeal to a different audience, but it's still a sizable audience.
Yeah.
And who was the artist on that book? It was help me out, Joe. Come on.
Oh God, give me a second.
No, I'm forgetting. It's a good artist. It's an artist they stole over from Marvel. His artist for Civil War 2. Worked with Bendis on Justice League. David Marquez.
Right.
David,
yeah.
Right. So that's a team you're going to be spending some money on that has some hype. But they introduced both of you within an hour of each other, and I just had to. Why?
Neither team knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, the right hand isn't talking to the left. And there's also 2 other Beyond books that came out about the same time. And I wish I had known to say to them, guys, when we launch, is there any other big announcement happening that day? Can you clear the runway for a few days to let my book get a boost, and then you can go on to business as usual? And I also should have asked, how many other Beyond events do you have going on? People are probably yelling right now, Sean, you shouldn't have to do that. And you're right, I shouldn't, because that's not what my fucking job is. But there doesn't seem to be anybody fixing this, so I'm just going to try to fix it myself. It's ridiculous. I don't like it.
Well, pride in your work.
That's what it takes right now. Yeah.
You got to have pride in your work. And I do think the ideal state for a publisher would be to announce your book, let 3 days go by, give it some breathing room, get some pickup in press, because all these websites desperately need anything to put on there, so it all would have spread.
Yeah.
Then 3 days later, you announce Tom's book, or vice versa, whatever, and then you let another 3 days go by, and then you announce one of these Beyond books, and you say, hype for the return of Batman Beyond and Sean's book. Well, here's another adventure you could check out here if you're a big Beyond fan. You just start linking these things together, but the consequence of that is you've got hype constantly running out of your company. It's just it's nonstop. You're controlling the news.
Yeah.
But it was an odd choice, and I go back to. We want these companies to make money and be strong and powerful. So at the end of the day, we want everybody to get a promotion, get a bonus, and get a check, and that's
Another way I put it too is if I'm 40,000 units light, what's that? $200,000, $250,000?
$250,000, yeah.
$250,000. Okay. If you had just given my 2 editors who left more money to stay, maybe they knew to include a poster. Maybe they would have said, oh, shit, we should move the Tom King thing back a few days. Oh, let's try to delay one of these other Beyond books so that Sean can have the runway. Just 5 minutes of ideas from one of these editors who, Mark and Maggie, who were you just lost $250,000. That is at least 3 salaries of people. That is at least 5 underpaid employees that you could have had. There's direct consequences for what's happening right now. You get that, don't you? And I'm not sure that they do. And I don't know who's pointing it out. And I hate to be the bad guy, but that's my job title this month. It's been really it's been rough.
But yeah, I mean, this is a situation where it's like there are basically, including your book, 2 like Batman Beyond books happening together.
Mm-hmm.
After they had no Batman Beyond books for a while, because there was a story, I think, in what was it, Urban Legends, that was leading up to this other Batman Beyond book,
right?
Which also made it confusing for people that hadn't read Batman Urban Legends, because it continues that story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all muddled, and then these are happening at the same time, But you see a lot of this. You see, like, there was no Aquaman book for like 6 months, and then there's like 2 or 3 Aquaman related books happening at the same time,
all at once.
Yeah, and it's like there was a deprioritizing of Wonder Woman, or she was really just in like one book, and then like sensational comics would happen every once in a while. And now we have multiple series going on tied together, like. It's either one extreme or the other, and that's
Easter
just
famine,
not. Yeah, it's not sustainable.
Well, it's a shame, because I think these efforts are, again, you can take a big segment of audience for your book. You can take another big segment for Tom King's book. I mean, you've got a lot of ground you can cover when you put all these things together, if you just roll them out.
Yeah.
And people are hungry for it. I mean, the funny part is the people who got the gift, if they ordered enough of it, was the retailers who now can go jack up this this White Knight comic for. And I was in a shop like a week ago, and they were selling a copy of White Knight #1 for $50.
Yeah, and stores who don't have an online shop and don't ship got fucked.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, if you own a shop and you don't do online orders, I don't know what you're doing. That just seems unexcusable to me right now.
I agree. Yeah.
And I know a few chains, and I really like these guys, but I hard disagree. So they don't want to charge $20 to $50 for White Knight #1 because they don't want to gouge people. At the same time, they're watching stores flip it online for $50, or if it's signed, even more than that. So it's like, I understand both sides of this, but you should have been able to put out your extra copies on eBay and made some money, or on your website or something. But you don't have a website, so you're not trying to make money on the side. You're lost. And this is not the first time you've lost something because you don't have a website. Guaranteed you probably left thousands of dollars on the table during COVID when you could have been selling collectibles. And, give me a break. You're a business. You should have a website.
Well, and I mean, this is stuff I know the customers who are going to the shop hate to hear. This idea of, I mean, I guarantee there's a lot of people sitting there listening to this that are just cringing through the entire process, because at the end of the day, all they want to do is be able to walk in, put down $4, get a book, read it.
Right.
And now we're saying you're going to be lucky to find it unless you reserved it in advance.
Right.
And if you want to go get it, hey, good news, because there's a retailer who's willing to gouge you $50 to get it. But is it really gouging? Because that's what the market will pay, and it's not available.
Yeah. So this is the mistake was too late to fix. So I chose to go on Instagram and say, issue 1 sold out. Issue 2 is there was a printing error. So a lot of the shops aren't even getting a variant. They might get it next week, but here are some copies online right now. They're selling for $50. And the reason I posted that wasn't to drive up artificial interest in the book. First of all, it's not artificial. It's real. It was to say, well, I know we don't like gouging. I don't like supporting this kind of behavior, but I have a problem where, like, I'm the boss. I have about 12 people answering to me, and they all need to make money, and DC needs to make money. There's a fuck up with the printer. The best move I have right now is to tell people that there's a run on this book. Even though it inspires gouging, it's the best way to get numbers back up, so that it continues to sell out, and then it'll get into a second printing. I'm not trying to help scalpers. I'm trying to drive interest to get to a second printing so that more people can read the book. But then the people who do finally get their hands on the book are still going to be pissed because they didn't get a chance to have a first printing and blah, blah, blah. So I took some heat for pushing the fact that it was selling on eBay, but if I was in the same bind, I would do the same thing again. It's, my bosses suggested I do it, or no, I think I just did it, and they called me and they're like, that was actually a good move. So I'm like, okay. I mean, some people think I'm a dick for doing that, but I don't know what else to do to get our numbers back up to where they should be. And if we have to play these games, then that's what we're going to do, because everyone I work for needs to make money.
Do you think? And this is gonna be the part where you want at least all the mistakes to lead to a better lesson. Do you think?
Sorry,
I know. Man. How do I word this in the most positive way possible? Do you think that this whole experience, going through it, some of the steps you're doing? So my hope, I guess, is that there's somebody at DC right now who is, was tracking with you. You reach out to the retailers, you're getting the poster down, and somebody's like making a checklist now, like, hey guys, let's just make sure we don't make this mistake again, because we want to do other things. Let's make sure we have it all ready, so we don't live through this again. I'm
making that checklist, and my editor, Brittany, who's amazing, by the way, she's making the checklist. I love drawing Batman, and I make a lot of money doing it, but I'm hitting my breaking point here. 5 years ago, it was really fun being at DC because you had office parties every year. You had the New York party and the brewery and the base of the Empire State Building, and bonuses, lots of key swapping, other things going on. Stuff like that. The marketing team was excited, the sales team, the other creators were excited, and like now I like the book, I'm excited, my editor likes it. I love Batman, but and I want to do a volume 4, but I'd like to see where DC ends up in the next 6 months. I hope they fix a lot of these problems, because if they don't, then I might retire from mainstream comics. Well, that'd be pretty devastating for them, for people who like Batman, like your work. I hope that people listen to this, and the key thread here is I understand you saying you're frustrated, but you also love the company. And what I mean by that is, like, nobody people who didn't love the company would not be going out of their way to say, show me the numbers. Come on, let's get on a call. Let's figure out how to make these things work. Granted, there's a financial incentive for you, but there's also a feeling of pride of just wanting your work to do well and to sell through, wanting the company to do well. And I'm not putting words in your mouth, but if right now somebody called you up, your editor or somebody else from, let's say Jim Lee calls you up and says, hey, we went through this with your book, and we appreciated you, jumping in there and trying to push it and everything else. We've got this other book coming up. It's, I don't know, invent something. Gary Frank and Jeff Johns are doing something. You're not involved at all, but we want to make sure this thing's a success. Can you come and just consult with us and show us, tell us what we should do differently on this book, so that at least they don't have to repeat your mistake? Would you do it? Yeah. Give me a little bit of money. Not much. And if I can help fix the culture, and then this doesn't happen to anybody again, that's in my interest. Absolutely. It's all healthier for us if these companies are strong and successful. Yeah. But I've been thinking more and more lately about this behavior that sets in on people when they endure kind of shock after shock after shock, and you just start to become numb. So this company has gone through now multiple layoffs. They've had leadership on several levels at different times ripped away. They've been told, like, hey, Daniel Cherry's coming in, he's going to fix everything. Oh, no, he's gone. Right. And they have a Bob Harris who's in there. It's like, he's your guy. No, he's gone. Didio is there, but now he's gone. And there starts to develop this feeling of fatalism, of just, they don't know when the hit's coming. And then the companies live through this, AT&T's buying you, that they're probably going to change everything, make all the characters into cell phone heroes. Oh, no, they don't care, actually. So maybe they're going to lay everybody off. Oh, no, wait, actually, they're trying to do Zack Snyder's Justice League. It'll be big. No, it won't after all. Hey, now Discovery's going to buy it. All the characters are going to be furries. Just at some point, do you think there's exhaustion sets in and people are like, what, mentally, I just can't take the yo-yo. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to wait. I may lose my job, but fuck it. I'll start caring when it stabilizes. I think that's pretty spot on, actually. It's hard to be excited about things if you're about to have your heart broken. And you realize that at first you try to get involved and be part of the solution, and you'll work extra hours to help right the ship. But if your efforts go unappreciated and they don't work, how many times can you have your heart broken? You finally just like, all right, well, you know what? I don't want to be the only one that's carrying. So I'm just going to do my job, punch in, punch out, and that's it. There's no incentive for me or editors or whoever, or a lot of employees. There's no incentive for them to level up in any way. And you can blame COVID, you can blame layoffs, you can blame Discovery or Warner, there's all kinds of reasons why this is happening. But I think people just lose faith.
Yeah. Well, and you hope, and there's certainly special people out there who dig deep and they still push, like you're doing with this book, like your editor, Brittany, sounds like doing a great job. There's certainly people who do push. But as a corporation, you can't constantly have that weight on people and just constantly count on everybody to be special and push. That weight does drag people down.
Right. It's a little bit like the Titanic, and I'm in the basement shoveling coal as hard as I can. So is Brittany. We're going out of our way to find extra coal. But everyone else, a lot of the other people who are shoveling coal are just sitting around not shoveling coal. And then you go up the decks and you start to assess the other problems, and you get to the captain who's not really sure where he's steering, and he doesn't know if someone's going to land, a helicopter's going to land and take over his boat. If Discovery's going to take over, and he's sort of waiting to know where to steer. Like, I mean, as a guy in the bottom shoveling coal, like, what am I supposed to do? I know how to give the boat fuel, but I don't know how to stop it from sinking, and I don't know how to get it to any other port. That's not my job. It's not Brittany's. We are as dedicated as can be, but there has to be change at the top, or at least some clear direction. And I know the Titanic is like a comics are dying thing, and I don't think they're dying, but if there's some sort of like low level nuke that takes out the weak spots, and then we can start rebuilding better, then I'm in favor of that.
I mean, that one woman survived with the big jewel she threw in the ocean. So
she's okay.
Yeah, she got it out all right.
I mean, comics are funny because it is, people will say, "Oh, we passed a point of no return" and all that, and then you have a Batman movie come out with the twinkly vampire, and it makes a ton of money, and it's like, "Oh no, this thing still got life." And it's for that matter, despite all this, it's kind of grim. I pick up your book, and it's a hell of a good read. It's enjoyable. It's got good action in it. It's got great art. Story's good. I'm loving it. I'm excited that you finally spoiled some of it, so I can start talking about it.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the kind words too.
No, but it's fun. I mean, so in the midst of all that, you talk about this kind of down stuff. You're still putting out a book that is a hell of a good read, and there's other good reads too. It's not just you, but it's a good book.
Yeah, I think the people that are successful right now are able to get lost in the work, and we're in it. We deal in escapism. We're paid to be in escapism, so we're really good at putting on our blinders and pretending things are fine and buckling down and drawing panels, like for better or worse. That's why artists are able to draw for so long without a contract, or they're not getting paid and they don't know how to stop working. Like, we're really good at, putting on blinders and just forging ahead. So, like the book keeps me going. It definitely is like meeting readers, getting positive feedback. Got a lot of really great compliments from Scott Snyder, which was nice, because I didn't even know if he really read my stuff. And like when I struck out to do my own writing, like very, very few writers ever wrote and said congratulations. Mostly, I think they saw me as a threat, or they were annoyed that I took myself off the table as far as being available to draw their shit. So it became very isolating when White Knight became a hit. Sorry.
I'm glad Scott reached out. I'm looking forward to that interview with Scott Snyder. We're going to do any day now.
That'd be great.
What's the over/under on that now, Perch?
It's not good. It's not good.
When are you going to start paying me?
There you go.
I got to collect.
I'm going to write Scott a $1,000 check right now. Let's do that interview.
Man. I mean, it's tough. If you mention CG in any casual way and don't, castrate them, then that's how people are going to read it. Unfortunately, I don't care about that. I don't play those games. Joe doesn't, obviously, but I know a lot of people, they sort of need those games.
I just need to do a supercut of all the times people in CG have called me a cuck, and then I can just send that video out to people. See, then it all works. But
you got Ron Mars. I was glad Ron came on.
Great.
I love talking to Ron. No,
you had the other guy, the super right winger, the colorist. I forget his name.
Abe.
Abe
he did all the talking. I did not get a word in. Yeah,
that's true.
You got a good swath of people. Like, I think you're trying to be fair and balanced as much as you can be.
Well, see, that's a Fox News slogan. See, now you're trying to paint me with. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
No, I think I just want to talk to people. I don't really give a shit about the rest. It's just fun to hear their stories, because a lot of people have good stories.
Yeah. I think that's hard to remember is most people doing this are really good people. They're pretty sane and they're probably pretty enjoyable in a bar. But we all go on Twitter and we get this this Frankenstein image of all these horrible parts of people. And we sort of stack them up and create this like villain. And we go, that's Vita or that's Mags or that's Sean or that's Scott or whatever it is. And like we know that Twitter doesn't matter. But we also fucking love getting on there and dunking on people. Like we're very two-minded about it. It's amazing the compartmentalization that we have because even though we know it doesn't matter, it doesn't stop us from like losing sleep, getting pissed off, and like firing back and trying to dunk on other people because we think it actually matters. You know, it's really strange.
Now, of course, you're excited to go back onto Twitter now that Elon has bought it.
I like Elon. I think for every 100 ideas he has are probably smarter than anything I'll come up with. But there's going to be one dumb, bad idea in there. And if I was his manager, I might wrangle him in on social media and interviews. But I think crazy geniuses, I mean, them being nutty is just part of the deal. And yeah, the unfortunate, like if Einstein was on Twitter, I'm sure we would find reasons not to like him either. I mean, he'd be canceled for dating his own cousin or something, right?
I think this is a terrible decision. He could have done anything. I mean, I'm not talking about even social good. Like, if you're going to really prank people, Twitter, like, come on, you could have made a new like Elon amusement park and set it up next to Disney. That would have been a funnier prank than what you've done. But
yeah, if he just buys it and shuts it down, that'd be fine. But I know
that would be hilarious. That's the best outcome right there. Buy it and kill it. Yeah. I don't know. So this comic, Beyond the White Knight, 8 issues, right?
Yep, 8 issues. We got a 2-issue part in the middle that's written by Clay McCormick and drawn by Simone DeMeo about Red Hood. So that'll be kind of like an interlude. So it's kind of like 10 issues, but I'm only doing 8 of them. Now,
is the interlude set in the same time period as the current Beyond?
Yep. Yeah, it's all lined up. Like it's not a filler because I'm late. This is planned. We had really good luck with the Von Fries we did in my wife's book, and we found that by doing these little mini one shots or closed stories, people who are buying Sean Murphy's stuff will probably be like, "Oh, there's a new one out, but Sean didn't do it. I'll take it anyway." I trust Sean, and these stories are generally okay. So it's kind of a way to sneak in a mini series that people will keep buying, and generally they seem to really like them.
Anyway, all kinds of things there. No, I'm excited to see where it goes. Again, the reception is really good. People like it. I've seen, by and large, pretty universal praise for the book. It's good classic storytelling. Again, art is really detailed and complex. You're going to be selling the original art, I'm assuming, off this?
Yeah, I actually sold issue 3 complete already.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I make more money on original art than I do on Batman than on royalties. In theory, I should, even if DC totally sinks, I should still be making Batman books for free just because I can sell the artwork. So it's a privileged position I'm in, but that's...
You could do a John Byrne kind of thing.
Is that what he does?
Yeah, and well, I don't know. I don't think he's selling it, though. I mean, he's just continued the X-Men on as if he was still on it from way back when Claremont was. He just continued. And it's actually great. It's and it's just free. You go to his message. He's posting it up on an old school message board, which is the most bizarre format you've ever seen in your life. It's like you've traveled back in time to early days AOL, and there's the art just up there for you to look at and comment on. It's crazy.
He's currently working on pages.
Yes,
for free.
For free. He just putting that stuff up there for fun.
I'm surprised Marvel wouldn't reach out to him and say, "Can we publish these?" Like an Elseworlds with John Byrne.
Apparently, people asked, and then they said, "No, Byrne is a hate guy. We can't do that." And then CB apparently tried to actually make a deal at some point, but Byrne, kind of pissed off the way he was treated before, decided, "Go piss off. I want to just keep having fun." And so that's where it's at.
Huh. Yeah, that sounds like Marvel.
Yeah, it's all bizarre on every front, but it is cool, and it is. I mean, Joe, you've read that stuff, right? What is X-Men? He's got a name for it.
Is it Elsewhen? I'm trying to think of
Elsewhen. Yeah,
that's pretty punk rock. Like, it's about John Byrne. That's pretty punk.
And I believe he picked it up from when he left the book. right?
Yeah.
It was like
I think it's a little after Days of Future Past then, because I think he left right around then. Yeah.
Yeah, right after Days of Future Past and the Dark Phoenix saga. And so he's like, screw it, I'm just going to continue. And then he just been continuing. And there's like, 19, 20 issues up there now?
So the lawyer in me is thinking like, can they just take it and publish it? Do they have any claim to that work at all?
They don't. They'd have to they'd have to sell it. But I mean, they could do a cease and desist for him. But if he's not selling it, then it gets weird fast. I mean,
so because Daniel Warren Johnson did some Star Wars ash cans and he didn't sell them, wink, wink, but you could donate to him and he would send you one. And I thought, man, if I did this, Marvel would come after me. Like, I don't know why they're letting him get away with this.
He has found just the right point, I think, where it's they're afraid of the bad publicity. I don't know. It's crazy though, but it's free comics out there. But all right. So if somebody wanted to buy some of your art, how much are they going to have to shell out, roughly?
On average, my pages go for about $3,000
a page.
My covers, a splashy page would be $5,000 to $6,000. A cover is the minimum 12 now. I've had people offer $20,000 for issue 1 covers, and I've turned it down. I'm trying to save a handful for retirement.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like trade my medium stuff up to get to. I want to be 70 and have 20 pages left, because I remember talking to my friend Klaus, and when you look at the value of Dark Knight stuff, I don't think he has any of it left, and I know he wishes he had held on to at least a handful. So my goal was, okay, well, I don't want to make the mistake Klaus is. I'm going to trade my smaller stuff to my medium stuff, and I'm going to have like a retirement pile that I'm just going to keep forever. And like in that pile, I have there's a love scene with Joker and Harley where she's naked. And in my version, she's topless because that's what Black Label was. For the book in DC, they made me cover up with word balloons, and I think I gave her panties and stuff like that. But in France, they accidentally, in black and white, published Harley nipple.
Nice.
So technically, I own the first naked Harley page ever published. And I don't know what that's going to be worth, but when I'm 70, we're going to find out.
But it's really interesting, though, because there's been so much talk in the past couple of weeks and months of, there have been like some Sandman artists who worked on Neil's original run, who are seeing pages they sold for like $50 back in the 90s, now being sold for 20, 30, 50 grand.
Yeah. It's
like insane.
Man. There's a Dubai prince that's some royal Middle Eastern family. I don't think these guys care about Kirby, but they'll tell their assistants, just buy all these Kirby pages, whoever the hot artist was in the 60s. Iron Man first appearance, whatever, and they'll just sit on it. They don't give a shit about comics. It's just an investment, and it's a way to wash money. I have a few guys who I think are in the mob who buy from me, and it's only cash, and it's just a way for them to launder. So when you start selling for when you get really up there, you start meeting some of these whales who can afford these pages, and it's really interesting to see what walks through the door, so to speak.
I love it. I've still got to get my hands on more of your art.
No, I see you've got a print in the background hanging up. The Batman
I've got
one.
A few. Yeah, no, I've got some of your art up there on the background there.
Oh,
I've got a
thanks,
couple
man.
things. It's up there. I've got the other side, but I'm going to destroy the microphone turning it over. But
yeah.
So I got to take you on the tour and show you the Art Adams stuff.
Yeah, I got to see that. Well, I have a question for you. So next year I'm going to be doing Zorro. I've talked a little bit about it here and there. I bought the rights to Zorro, and I'm going to be doing a Zorro meets Narcos. It's going to be kickstarted. It's just going to be 4 issues, and it's like a modern day story of a guy who's out of his mind, who thinks he's Zorro, and he's actually really good at being Zorro, and he saves this village from evil drug gangs and stuff. So pretty basic story. I love Zorro. I don't know if anyone else cares about Zorro, although there is a lot of movement at Disney and stuff that I've heard of. But I don't know what to sell my pages for, because Batman, not everything is going to sell like Batman, but I don't want to go too low, but I don't want to gouge people either. So it's weird. I mean, I'm told I should sell my Zorro stuff for 2/3 of what Batman is.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think depending on what plays out, I think if the Disney stuff takes off, although the synopsis I've seen doesn't sound too promising, it sounds like they're going kind of younger with it, which is a bad idea. Yeah. I think Zorro as a property is one of those things that if it's got a good story behind it and they lean into a Robert Rodriguez style story, it's going to do, that would do great. And so if your comic can capture that tone, then I think you can sell it for quite good money.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I wasn't thinking about, like, I was going to go rated R, so blood and there's guns
nipples
and stuff, all kinds of nipples,
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's at least 4 things happening with Zorro right now. 2 of them have been announced. 2 we haven't heard of yet. But it's interesting. Like suddenly there's a big push for Zorro, but I'm a cynical guy, so I just assume nothing's ever really going to get done. But I agree. Like, I think the world is always up for Robin Hood. If you got a good Robin Hood movie, like, sure, we're always up for it. And I think Zorro sort of falls in that category in a way. But whether or not they actually do good Zorro stuff, we'll see. But I'm going to try.
What time period is your Zorro set in?
Now. It takes place now.
So you're telling me you're going to get some because you're at least I think well known or well liked for how you draw cars. So you're going to put Zorro in a car.
Oh yeah,
shooting people.
Yeah. Well, so his sister is a driver for the cartel. She drives an El Camino because it's Mexico, and
perfect.
That's the car. And Zorro's horse is named Tornado. So her car is called Tornado. Cut to the scene where she's driving. She's flipped on the cartel. She's there to save her brother. He's in the back hanging on with a sword, just like slashing. So that's kind of the scene I'm getting to. But yeah, you're right. I would do Zorro, but I needed to have a car in it. So I had to move it to the present day.
That should sell really, really well. And I think the only way to boost the sales up further is if you have them drive that car to an island and then he gets out and he just starts fighting with his junk.
Yeah, and slapping. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Also, how many variant covers?
Oh, I need a lot. You're right.
There's no way to variant covers.
Yeah.
One for every dick.
Yeah. One of the things I forgot to mention is that comics seem to have fallen into this habit of if they think you're successful, they think they don't need to market you anymore.
Yeah.
This happened to some big friends of mine too, who the publishers they were working for were like, well, we knew you were a big name, so we didn't think we had to do anything. And it's like, thanks for the confidence, assholes. But yeah, we all still need some marketing. I think the rule is
that lines up. If you think about movies, like when the Avengers came out, you notice they did no commercials, no advertising, no posters, no merchandise, nothing, because everybody knew it was going to do well.
Yeah,
I heard, and Perch, you're actually the person to ask about this. When you create a new IP, the money you spend, you say you spend $100 million on marketing, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a sequel, you only need to spend 80%. Like you actually don't have to spend as much the second time because you've already established the IP. There's this way of thinking of if you do a sequel, you only have to spend 80% out of 100 of what you spent the first time. Have you ever heard that?
I have, but it's a misnomer. So that's not quite. People have said that, but they're forgetting a key part to it. With the sequel, then you have known buys for how much the license is worth. So when you go out for the first time, you generally have to give a better deal to the McDonald's, the Starbucks, like whoever's going to do your campaigns and buy in to be part of that license.
Yeah.
When you do the sequel, you don't have to give as rich a deal to those companies. So yeah, your marketing budget may be 80%, but you're getting more. And people don't spend actually 80%. They usually spend more on the sequels. Mm-hmm. It's just that they're getting more value for that money. And so people have really misinterpreted what's happened.
Okay.
Where it's like, now you have to give 20% less to get the merchandise out. So we're saving money, but we're going to take that 20%. We're actually going to double it, and we're going to go in some other markets. So like almost every sequel, they always spend more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know why comics convince themselves that they don't need to do marketing on big names anymore. Like, how did that idea work itself into the culture?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, there's no origin to it anywhere. The music industry, obviously, the big artists, they get lots of money and hype and promotion. Same thing with movies. Same thing with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, every major product, whether it's food to furniture to anything, I mean, the big names all advertise.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, maybe they're just saying you only have to tweet 80% as much for them.
That could be it. Yeah.
I actually had a list of like grab bag questions for both of you that I never. they're not really. They wouldn't fill a whole podcast, but
do it.
One of the ones I was going to ask. This will piss off a lot of people.
Great.
But Perch, you actually have your own rule, because I said to you once, if someone in comics is a creator and they're older than the age of 35 and they've never shown any signs of brilliance, probably they're never gonna ever. They're probably not ever gonna produce.
Oh shit.
How's your book coming along, buddy?
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, I know people who have done indie books that are brilliant, but they never struck. So they will hit big maybe when they're 37, 38. But at least you did stuff that showed brilliance before the age of 35. Something for me about the age of 35 is like, if you haven't done anything by now, you're probably never going to do anything. Sorry. And move on. You said there's a similar rule in tech, but it's actually age 30.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and maybe earlier still, I think in technology, when we're hiring software engineers or people who are designers, UX experts, if somebody comes across a desk and they are over the age of 30 and they have had no relevant experience anywhere, they're pretty much dead. Now, the exception to the rule is tech is so starved right now for talent. If you show some competence, they'll probably hire you anyway, but you're coming in at pennies on the dollar at that point. So, yeah.
What do you think, Joe?
No, I mean, it makes sense to a point. It depends because like you were saying, I mean, there are people who transition careers, things like that, where maybe there's some promise, but they would have had to have shown some promise in some other field. I mean, there are plenty of examples of, in comics, there's artists who do that transition from where they stop drawing completely and they just start writing, and they don't start doing that until they're in their 40s.
Right.
So that's an interesting sort of thing. I'd be curious to think a little more on that, because there's a lot of people that do that and don't really have that much writing experience. They kind of just do like that complete crossover.
Isn't Becky Cloonan sort of doing that, or is she still drawing?
She draws variant covers and covers for things, but I don't know if she's doing comics that aren't just like for herself or something like that. Like certainly not Big Two drawing. Tim Seeley's another one who, used to draw everything, and now I can't remember the last time he'll sketch at cons and stuff. Like he still can draw and he can do a good job, but it's just not what he's doing. And the mindset for that, from that I've heard at least, is, I get more books out there, my name's on more things, so that benefits me to some point. I'm not sure how much it does or not. I feel like in comics, people are quicker to dismiss an artist as being dated than a writer. I think writers tend to hang on a little more, so I think that's part of it.
Right, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general logic I agree with. I think that there's, the caveats to all of this is if the industry is inherently broken or has weird pieces to it. I mean, the other part is a publisher can basically set up shop, bring in all of their friends, and then it effectively blocks out people from entering that publisher. So if you're a creator that gets to be 35 or so and you've never got work at Marvel, is it you? Is it Marvel? But then the other question becomes, do you care at that point? Like if you're 35 and you're trying to break into Marvel and it hasn't happened yet, maybe you question your decisions.
Yeah, it comes up a lot for me when I'm at my table and I have people that want to show me their portfolios. I generally try not to look at them because I don't want to be a dick, but I've got a line of like 100 people and I've got to take a break and do other things. I have a meeting usually. So I'm not a good person to get portfolio reviews from. That being said, I just feel awful when I see someone who's like 45 showing me their stuff. And I just want to be like, dude, just don't. You don't want this. You clearly don't want it. Like, and he's probably been trying to draw for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. I really want to draw Spider-Man. I'm just like, that's the most heartbreaking thing I think I've encountered in comics is people like that. You want to just tell them to give up.
Did you ever think about telling him like, look, Rob, you're never going to draw feet at this point. So just stop.
But one thing though with that is when you look at Marvel and DC, typically when there's an up and coming artist, they tend to be in their 20s.
Right.
At first, but writers tend to be in their 30s and sometimes late 30s when they get picked up. Like there's just a lot. It takes a lot longer for them, and part of that is because you can just open up a portfolio and look through a few pages, and if they really have it, you know pretty quickly if they're worth like following up with, if they're worth.
Yeah.
And they do so many variant covers. You can always be like, oh, well, we need a 38th cover on this. And, can you do it over the weekend? Someone trying out. But yeah, with writers, it tends to, because not only that, but whenever they do get writers, they try to write as many things as possible. Mm-hmm. So they're taking up, sometimes 2, 3, 4 slots at a
every page is gold.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
Next question. How long do you think Marvel will have offices in Manhattan? Do you think Disney Press will take over, consolidate, and move people down to Orlando?
I think that 95% of Marvel will be out of New York by 2025.
Okay. I was going to say 2025. That's great.
There you go. I think they'll keep. I mean, Disney likes to keep some offices in New York. They have them sprinkled around a couple places, but they're really for meetings and show and tell kind of activities. And I think potentially with how the whole shit plays out down in Orlando, maybe they'll want to drag more people up to New York for the meeting than Orlando.
That's an interesting curveball, actually, which has happened in the last 2 weeks. That does change some things, maybe.
Yeah, but I think that office will vanish and people will just be migrated out. I think 3 years tops.
Yeah. That office is horrible. I remember going, there isn't even like a proper reception room. You have a desk jammed near the elevator door, and that's where you wait before you're ushered in. And 3 big editors to a room, a 10 by 10 room, like it is inhumane working in the Marvel offices. Like
it's not nice. I mean, I remember the first time I went in there, a similar, like, because in comics, that's going to Mecca. It's like you're going to the place where Kirby once wanted to punch somebody out, and it's like, you really wanted to be there, and then you go there and like, wow, this place is a dump.
Yeah, it's not inspiring, and I feel no wonder. Even if it's hard for these people to be putting out their best work if they're being paid poorly and forced to share each other's farts in a 15 by 15 room with no windows. I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's fun to dunk on them, but it's not their fault. They should be treated better. I mean, some of them aren't good at their jobs, period, but maybe give them a better chance by giving them more resources.
I agree. That's one of the main things I've said that gets people to crap on me, but I agree with you completely.
Like they might suck, but let's make it so like now they have no excuses, because they have a lot of excuses why. Not just Marvel, by the way, a lot of publishers. You have a lot of excuses why things aren't great. But if you fix all those things, you go, all right, idiots, like we fixed all the problems. So go ahead and make a comic. And if you fuck it up, well, guess whose fault it is now? And I think we'll be proven right in a lot of ways. Like, 80% of these people really did do a bad job. And there's just no one to blame anymore because we fixed everything.
But the paper shortage.
But, that only affects some publishers, not other publishers.
It's mysterious how that happened. I think if you have a good working environment, a good place to work, you give people a salary where they feel like they're actually working for something that's meaningful. You're definitely going to discover it's going to weed out. A couple of people will rise to that challenge, others will not. But more importantly, it's going to attract people who actually want to come work in that job, and those are the people you want. The people who are going to rally to go call retailers when something's fucked up.
Right.
But you're also dealing with companies like Scholastic or Penguin Random House, Macmillan, and other companies like publishers in like Manhattan.
Yeah.
Where their like starting salary for an assistant editor, like bare minimum, is like $40K a year, and that's what like associate and higher at like Marvel end up making. Like they don't so. You get people if they're applying for jobs, if they want to get involved. It's like, I'm going to go take, if you offered me either job, it's like, I have to be really passionate to take like 5 to 10K less a year in Manhattan to work those kind of jobs. So it ends up, So you get the talent pool limited from that. And it's also a bit of a slap in the face because it's like, I might, I could end up at, Penguin Random House or Macmillan, like working on like, like bland, like historical fictiony kind of stuff that no one cares or talks about. There's zero buzz behind, and be making 5-10K more than someone who's working on some of the most valuable IP that has ever been generated in the history of the known universe.
Tell us how you really feel, man.
You're not wrong. That's the problem. That's why it's all so backwards right now. It's this stuff is absolutely tremendously valuable. It's tough when you go to Japan and they're able to merchandise the U.S. properties better and quicker and more valuable than we can in the U.S. I mean, it's just like it's hard to take. I would lose my mind. I do lose my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's great. It's like, oh, you get to work on like like you could help out on Spider-Man for good luck finding a place within an hour and a half that you can afford to live and do this. Or I hope you're married to someone that's making money, or that whatever it is, because that's what you get for working on a character who's had so many movies that have all multi-billion dollars just in movies, not counting all the cartoons and merchandise and video games and
that's, I think we reached the peak of this in some way when I saw the trailer for the new Thor movie. Normally a trailer has some plot in it, the bad guy is, what the stakes are. The trailer I saw was just Thor partying, listening to Guns N' Roses and doing cool shit with it. It was like they're not even trying to make a decent trailer anymore. They're just like, you guys, you're gonna love this. It's gonna be a fun movie, so we know you're gonna show up. So here you go. And they're probably right. Maybe they probably have another hit on their hands, so they don't need to do. I mean, Marvel's been so good with the movies that they can just put out a trailer. It's like, here's Thor listening to Guns N' Roses. We don't even need to tell you who the bad guy is.
I was gonna watch that. I was gonna go see that movie probably opening weekend, regardless of the trailer or not.
They know that. Yeah, they know that at this point. It's brilliant. It's annoying, but also brilliant.
I'm just surprised you saw a trailer at all, because as a popular movie, I didn't think they needed to advertise it.
I heard. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's true. That's weird that they wasted money on that.
Yeah, I don't know why they wasted that money.
Do you feel like if comics was fixed 20%, it would be fixed enough for us to fix the rest of it ourselves?
100%.
Like maybe the reason we're not able to fix this is because we're just so broken. We've crossed below a line that we're really struggling here. And if we just had a bit more bandage and just helped a little bit more, we'd be able to do the rest of ourselves.
Yeah, I think there's a domino effect that if a couple fundamental things were fixed, that suddenly it would transform in everything. Like my dog's like thoroughly pissed at this answer. I don't know what's going on.
That's fine. But yeah, no, exactly though, because like if there are, and I think you're alluding to this, but there's some industry knowledge that has been so thoroughly debunked for years that still gets spread around.
Yeah.
Like part of the problem is it's like, okay, that knowledge needs to go. We need people to acknowledge that's not how it works. Or we at least need people to acknowledge like certain things, like, look, we're going to do variant covers with this, but we acknowledge this is a short-term fix, and we are working on what's going to go in the future. Because ultimately, we talk about these things all the time. The different book, like, they don't need a bunch of different colors to covers to sell Dave Pilkey's work, to sell Scholastic work, to sell One Piece, to sell all these different things. And they're not upping like the amount they move, like DC, for example, because like to their credit, they were on that top 750 from BookScan of the highest selling books last year, or graphic novels, and Marvel wasn't. But a bunch of those books are still things like Watchmen and, Batman Year One and things like that. And they don't need variant covers to sell those books. People buy whatever edition they can. They don't need that. It's like you need to put out a good product, that word of mouth. Like, they're still moving John Byrne's Superman. They're still moving Claremont's X-Men and all this stuff. And it's not because people hate the stuff coming out now or whatever it is. It's because it's good stuff that stood the test of time. And it's like there needs to be more of an effort to work with that, try to find that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard when you're putting out so much stuff. You can't think, is this going to still be on the shelf in 10 years? All you have the capacity to think is, oh my God, do we have everything in it? Is this going to be ready for the printer in time? And oh God, this book, I got to put out this fire and this fire and this fire. And there's no way you can even catch all the mistakes, let alone plot something out that is going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
There's a couple small things that if were repaired, I mean, if you just think about if the marketing was repaired and the distribution was repaired and you suddenly started pushing real volume through everything else, these problems would get fixed, the rest of them in a hurry. It would accelerate and pick up speed.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's why I think it would be very easy to fix big aspects of what's broken in the comic industry. It is not a terminal patient by any stretch of the imagination. There's parts of it that are working. The amount of comic sales that people keep touting prove that others are making it work. So the channel is there, the interest is there.
Yeah,
you just got to tweak a couple things, and it really almost is small changes, but the right small changes would tip everything else over.
Right.
Yeah.
I've also heard this next question. There's this theory going around right now. Writers who are over 40, who were writers in like from the 80s to the 90s. There's no way to describe this without getting into the culture war shit. And Comicsgate's about to love what I'm about to say. But there are a lot of so-called old school writers who feel like they've been pushed out of the industry, who say they know what they're doing. And I think that they do. And they're looking at the new group of so-called woke writers who are being hired for whatever reasons. And they're looking at this as a mess. And a lot of these old school writers are just waiting to take the stage back. Like some young asshole grabbed the microphone and is singing and screaming, and the crowd seems to be into it, but really the sales are going down. So there's this phenomenon with a lot of writers who are sort of waiting this out, and they're excited for when publishers realize that these new guys and girls aren't all they're cracked up to be. They can be pushed off the stage, and then these old school writers can reclaim. Have you ever heard this theory? Or this might might always be around for people that don't want to.
I mean, well, you go first. Perch.
No, I mean, absolutely. But I mean, this is the broken. I mean, this isn't just writers. I mean, there's artists too. There's a lot of people who are extremely talented, who would love to do good work, who are not. I mean, the myth that I hear is like, oh, it's be way too expensive to hire a Kevin McGuire or a Walt Simonson or a Bob Layton, way too expensive to do that. But then you find out, no, actually their rates are quite affordable and they're a known entity and they can get that work done. So why wouldn't you hire them? Then the next excuse, it's too dated. They're not, there's not these current sensibilities. It wouldn't work with today's audience. It wouldn't function, but that's not true either, because when they put out prints, they're still able to get plenty of money. And in this market, the primary audience that's supporting comics right now are people that largely came up through that. So what it comes down to is a lot of the new people were hired because they're buddies of the young editors who want to work with their friends.
Yeah.
And so you get a very nepotism-like sequence. And frankly, the younger editors who are getting paid junk money are hiring people who they like working with, but nobody's really out for success because they've never seen what success looks like. They don't know what it means to make 6 figures, 7 figures on a book, because that they have no context for that. So they're just happy to kind of work with their friends. And there's almost, again, this fatalistic behavior of like, well, one day all this will come crashing down, but at least me and my friends had a good time along the way.
Right.
And that's what we're living in right now. And the part I just don't know is I don't think the companies one day wake up and go, hey, we should hire those old guys again. They knew what they were doing. I don't know that that's moment's ever going to occur, because that would require people going, we fucked up. And that's hard for people to do.
I mean, it's complicated in that I think people like to throw around those terms like, woke and this and that, and that's what it has stuff to do with. But it really has nothing. I don't think it really has much to do with that. I think what it comes down to is, building on what Perch was saying, it's editors, it's the relationship the editors have. There are more woke people out there. There are people more woke than people writing comics and this and that. But just in terms of using that word, but
right,
it's about the relationships people have. It's about these editors who they like to work with, who they don't like to work with. Some of it is guided by editorial. It has nothing to do with the teams. I mean, there are plenty of people who will tell you, hey, I want to do this story, but I got, top down, this is how we're handling it. There are people out there who will tell you, oh, I'm doing this book, and they had no say in how it was being marketed. And then it turns into the marketing being about, this and that, like, oh, this is the girl power book, or this is, the queer book and stuff like that. And that's not the team. It's other people.
Yeah.
You also have, I mean, when people are, using terms like that, I mean, it's like, one of the examples people bring up is someone like, Tom Taylor, who is also not one of the people tend to talk about when, he now a little more so, but is someone when people talk about that kind of stuff, they're talking about some people who, this is really the problem, because some of these people are, we're talking about, people I know, friends of mine, people I've worked with, but, and you've worked with, and, and all that, but like, it's not even that stuff, because people fixate on people and act like they have all these books or they have all these, but when you look at what's coming out, it's like they're not nearly as prolific, and that's not their fault. Maybe they want to be more prolific. It's, you get the kind of work that you get allocated to yourself, but there's focusing on that kind of stuff with a small group of people and focusing it on that, but it really has more to do with the editors, with the higher ups. People have falling outs. Some of these older writers and even artists, some of it's they've had falling outs with editors. They've had falling outs with Marvel and DC. They're on a, like, don't call list. They're on that. You have all that stuff going on.
I mean, you fuck Brevort's wife once and they never forgive you.
but really, it's like that. That's just a thing. I mean, you talk to some of the older talent too, and it's like they genuinely just don't know how to get a hold of people. They're like, oh, all the people I know, I don't know anybody there anymore, and that's like it. And for a lot of people, they don't pursue beyond that for whatever reason. They're working in video games now. They're doing something else, and they're like, the party was fun while it lasted. My friends aren't there anymore, so it wouldn't even be fun. Like, it was cool working on these books in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, because I knew the editors, we were buddy, we had a good rapport, and now they're not there. So it's like, it's not even fun. So why would I do it?
But do you think that once comics starts to fix itself, the new successful group of writers will be new people we haven't heard of yet? Or do you think there'll be a bunch of, like, Grant Morrison is back and he knows what he's doing, and so Ron Mars and all these other names from the 80s and 90s, like, they're coming back by storm to reclaim and to show these boneheads how it's done?
I think you're going to see writers we've never heard of paired up with legendary artists.
Okay,
and that's what I think we're going to see.
I think I'm inclined to think that. I think there's going to be a lot of the writers who are going to be leading things, 5 years from now, are going to be people we've never heard of, with a couple of people, still hanging on, depending on what they want to do. We might still have, Peter David putting out work, stuff like that. But I think we're going to have a new crop of writers. Some of the people who are currently big or are climbing up are still going to be there. That's just how it goes. Some of them are going to be weeded out, but that's always how it goes. But this also makes me think of something. I thought about this recently, and I'd love to hear, your take, Sean, and you as well, Perch. At this moment in time, we are 31 years out from Chris Claremont, Jim Lee's X-Men #1. That was 31 years ago. Fantastic Four #1 and X-Men #1 are only 30 years apart. We are further away from that X-Men #1 than from the start of Marvel as we know it to that book. And to this day, we still talk about, even though that much time has passed, why don't we should get Jim Lee on another book. We should get Todd on another book, and, even Rob or Silvestri and Portacio, all those guys. That would be like if when X-Men #1 came out, we were talking about, like, you got to get Ditko back on a book. Or where's a Jack Kirby book? Where's that? We got to get John Heck on something. Got Carmine Infantino. You got to put him back on the Flash. And it's like, it's when you think about it that way, it's like, what's, obviously we know some of what's different between now and then. Comics, despite the fact that the comics overall were selling less than they were in the 60s, the comic shops were strong. So we were celebrating big hits like X-Men #1, despite the fact that overall sales were down. Right. And now we're at this point, and in a similar kind of way, overall sales of floppies are down, but there are aspects of the industry that are selling like never before. So why is it that we are, it's not just, like here we talk about this, but you see this all over YouTube and comic shops and stuff. People talking about bringing people who started 30, 35 years ago to draw and all of that. Like, is that something we need to reevaluate? Or is that the answer? Or not the answer, but part of the answer? Like, because you look at the stuff that they did, have maybe Steve Ditko or even like Jack Kirby or anything like that going on in the 90s. No one talks about or cares about that. So yeah,
I don't know how to answer that. Was it really a question? Is there a question in there?
Yeah, no. The idea is, so why is this? Why is it that we're handling things so much differently that far out from a key point in comics history than, from the 60s to the 90s, even though there were still clear signs of problems in the industry at the time?
There was more stability then. There was a lot of, there was more, the failures didn't fall so hard because you still had a lot of different avenues for where money could be made and where comics could be sold. That's the different, we've taken ourselves down several one-way roads at this point. And so, you have to get some new things up, but it's a fascinating point. I'm just kind of pissed that you make me feel old every time we do this. And I'm never going to make it now because I'm way past 35. So I'm fucked.
I was looking at Jim Lee's X-Men #1 earlier today, and I'm like, man, this guy's stuff is just as good as it used to be 30 years ago. And it's just crazy how timeless it is. But I don't know. It'd be a hard career to recreate.
I've still got the frame picture. I'll turn on later. I've got the full X-Men #1 gatefold here with Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Cheeto signing it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good point, Joe. I never really thought of it that way. I imagine that the rose-colored glass goggles that we're wearing about the 90s is, you had an interesting intersection of like Sega. So you had the Marvel, you had Jim Lee doing X-Men, and then you had this cartoon that was kind of sort of bolstering that at the same time. Then you had arcade machines with Jim Lee's art on them, and shirts were done like never before. You started to see action figures. Like, there was a meeting of 5 different things happened all at once to really solidify Jim as like the all-time X-Men artist in some ways, and all-time artist in most people's eyes in some ways too. And it still has legs. It doesn't seem dated. It seems like Jim. It seems like classic X-Men, blue and yellow. Let's get back to that. We've got that warm fuzzy feeling for it. But yeah, I wasn't looking for more Ditko art in 1991. I wasn't like, we got to bring back Kirby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the media technology and like computer coloring hit at that moment too with Image, and it's just like a lot of things aligned at the same time. And a lot of people got a boost because of that in ways that maybe will never ever happen again.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I just add real quick too that it feels like not just feels, it's obvious that the styles and everything, like you see an evolution in comics in those 30 years in a way that does not exist between 91 and 2002.
Yeah.
But sorry.
No. It's a fascinating conversation. I mean, this is the kind of stuff. This is why we should come on and do this every week.
Yeah.
And Jim being had charge of the company in a lot of ways, it's sort of the silent messages. Let's hire people to draw like Jim to do mainstream books, like the house style. It's the so-called house style. Like I always thought the house style from 2000, 2015 at DC was like Jim Lee meets some Silver Age 80s stuff. Like we're looking for Neil Adams and Jim Lee kind of thing. Like that's sort of what we want with much better coloring. Mm-hmm. But now, like, I don't know if there is a house style.
I think the house style is just get something out quickly and hope that it lasts 3 issues.
There is a Pixar influence. Like a lot of people who are out of art school who are like ages 25 to 35 who grew up with Pixar seem to have a very samey style that's pretty good for YA books, or maybe like maybe like ages like 13 to 20 or whatever. But kind of bigger, rounder eyes. There's a manga influence there, but it all looks like Pixar stuff to me. And I think that is heavily there, but not so much in mainstream comics. That's the only house style I can think of right now.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say I was to buy a comic book company, just hypothetically. Which one should I buy?
Mine.
Okay.
Let me start with you, Amy.
All right, that'd be a good investment. You would be you'd be the chief creative officer.
I'll be your Jim Lee. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about this recently.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't realize that when you buy a company, you're buying a lot of debt. So there's a mathematical hurdle that you need to get over, right?
That is a challenge.
Which companies are around that have debt? And then like you pointed out in many of your podcasts, a lot of these smaller companies are owned by one large tycoon of some kind who wants to be made whole before he gives you his company. So you're not only buying, their employees and the process which they do to produce the product, but you have to pay off his debt as well. Is that really worth it? I don't know. How many companies are around who don't have a billionaire tycoon behind them? Like how many cheap companies are available for purchase at a reasonable level? And if you do buy them, like it seems to me a lot of the things we talk about in this podcast is a lot of people in the industry, a lot of employees don't really know what they're doing. So you're buying a company with 10 people, get ready for 5 of them to suck at their jobs, So you got 5 firings immediately.
Well, I mean, if you were to start a new company too, and you were to start hiring people and you just paid a livable wage, I've got to believe that you could pretty much have anyone you wanted from within comics.
But what you're saying, Simonson is, if he's as affordable as you say he is, and I do know his rate, and he is affordable, and I would love to hire him when I start my company. Mm-hmm. I actually tried to get him on a variant cover for White Knight, and I told my editor, like, just so you know, I heard he's really pissed because some handshake deal he had with some editor, and he's 30 pages into a book, and he can't get so-and-so to even call him back. So if you ask him to do a book for me, I don't know, Walt, but he might respond by screaming at you for like, why the fuck can't your company?
No, he never. Back? Walt's the nicest guy.
Yeah, he's too nice to do that. He'll let you know how he feels.
Yeah, right. But politely.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's one of the most polite guys, honestly, in comics that I've ever seen. But
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It feels like something that I don't know, just should kick around and try.
Yeah. I don't know. I if I had to buy a company, I might have tried to look into buying what's it called? Fuck. They were in New York. We were just talking about them recently.
Valiant?
It's Valiant. I would have looked into buying Valiant at one point because I liked a lot of their IPs in the 90s. I think that stuff could be reinvented, and some of they used to do like watercolor print colors in their books. And, I would look into seeing if there's a way to bring that back. And I've met the Valiant fan base, and they're small but passionate. Now, in the last 4 years. A lot of them have been really pissed off at Valiant for different reasons. But we've all talked about and editors who are involved. But I think there's a way to get that back. So that was a company that I would be interested in looking at. I have no idea what their debt is, though. But mostly I just want to draw some Ninjak.
I can't imagine there's much debt after the smash hit Bloodshot movie, but
probably a reasonable amount of debt.
Yeah.
How do you know, Perch?
I don't know. Just spitballing here.
I mean, you're not hiring Heather Antos. She's not out of there. She's not there anymore, is she?
No, she's over at IDW.
No, she's over at IDW.
Hold on. How many editors does IDW? How many employees does IDW have?
No, they have a decent amount. You know,
they have more editors than titles. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I know, you know, I think Heather's working on the Star Trek books now, and I know some people have been dealing with her, and you know, the people that I know who work with her have said nothing but nice things about working with her.
Yeah, personally, I heard she's. You know, I didn't know what block bots were until I tried to follow her on Twitter, and I was hit with like, "You're blocked." And I'm like, "What?" And I was one of the first people of all my friends who knew there was this new technology. And I'm like, if you can have a list, like anybody who follows someone you don't like, there's this thing that you can do now. And I called 6 people. I'm like, what did I ever do to Heather Antos? Why is she blocking me? And I guess I was just following someone that she didn't like. But no one knew what this was. And then we came out that everyone was using these blockchains. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, have you tried doing better?
Oh, yeah, I got to do better. Do better.
I mean, the key is you got to look down, see where you're at. Yeah. Are you on the right side of history or not?
I mean, I created Black Robin, so I've done my piece. You're welcome, Black people.
No, but the way a lot of that works, no one actually checks, you know, who gets caught up in that. They just run it and that's it. So there's, you know, which is, you know, it's a whole other discussion I think we've had before the three of us. But yeah, it's a whole thing. But none of that might be a thing anymore with Elon Musk buying Twitter. So we'll see.
Yeah. While we're throwing people under the bus, can I finally tell you my side of the whole Mags fiasco where she accused me of love bombing?
It's your party.
If that's what you want to do, you're saying it.
I've never really defended myself. I'm like,
you're allowed to talk about your experiences that I'm not involved in.
I hope she's happy and healthy, and she says she has a lot of mental stuff going on. So I hope that she gets help for all that stuff if that stuff's true.
Cool.
I really just tried to be your friend because Scott Snyder, she was a student of his, and any friends of Scott's a friend of mine. And I don't like living in an industry where people who are LGBT and doing different things just get attacked. And I'm like, well, if I'm, you know, someone in power and I can hang out and try to, you know, be emotionally supportive and blah, 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 then yeah, let's do it. You know, I got to the point where she didn't have money. So I offered to give her a loan to pay for her wedding. She was complaining that she didn't have enough for surgery to do more stuff. And I said, well, I can give you some money for that. And I wasn't buying her loyalty or anything like that. In fact, I told her, if any of your friends don't like me and it puts you in a weird spot, do not defend me. Do not defend me on Twitter. Do not defend me to your friends. I don't want to make anything hard for you. So the whole idea on that. I guess. And it came up out of the blue. I'm like, what the fuck happened? I literally texted you 2 weeks ago and things were fine. If you had a problem, why couldn't you just, and I talked to my wife, I talked to my lawyer, and it was just stay back. There's nothing you can do now. She's shots fired. And looking back, it's nice to know that it didn't work. And that in fact, it was sort of a one of the major attacks that happened in comics where everyone on the left and right was like, no, that doesn't sound right. Suddenly everyone was sane that day. And we're like, Sean's been doing this for 17 years. If you're accusing him of this, then there would be other accusations, and there's nothing. He doesn't even go to shows. I mean, if he does, he brings his wife. It's like, no. Even people that don't like me were like, I wish we had something on Sean, but this is not it. So keep fishing. So yeah,
I'm glad there was a moment of sanity there. Although, at one point when you put your hand on my thigh, I was wondering.
Well, you were asking for it, so
that's true.
If you weren't wearing a miniskirt,
eyes that I've got the sharp, steely blue eyes. That's what does it.
No, I was taking a play of the Warren Ellis book. I thought I would try it out.
Yeah, that's smart. I can't blame you.
Well, if you're going to take a play on the Warren Ellis book, you better start eating.
Yeah.
Big guy.
I like where this has devolved tonight. This is wonderful.
Yeah, who else can we throw into the bus? No, it's crazy. I mean, like, just think of the logistical problems too. I mean, all right, I'm a big name in comics. I'm one of DC's most valuable people. If I go to a party and I think that someone is going to be there who attracts me on Twitter, what do I have to do? I have to tell my wife, hey, here's a list of 5 people that might be there, and they might confront me or do something weird. And these are the ones that have come after me on Twitter. If we see this person, that person, like, I just put it on people's radar. My editor, any friends of mine, women especially, who know me, I'm like, I'm going in, but if I give you a signal, like, I might ask you just to hang out with me so I have a witness. And it's just self-preservation when you have a lot to lose. I know artists who he hired a consultant for this, and I think it's too crazy, but his rule is he can never, ever be alone with a girl at a con ever again. He can never get on an elevator alone with a girl. And he always has to have a female assistant with him at all times. And if he ever takes a photo, he can't put his arm around a girl. Even if she puts her arm around him first, it has to be where the camera can see her hands. Like Keanu Reeves has been doing for 20 years, to his credit. It's that kind of shit. And as he was telling me these things, I was like, man, that sounds insane. Like, I don't fear that if I put my arm around a reader, we do a photo, that I just don't give off creepy vibes. It just seems like he's taking it too far, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is just the way that we just have to be super defensive now. I don't know.
I think it bends around the other direction. I think that we've got enough technology now that we can look at some of this stuff. We can see where it all goes. I mean, I do think that like all things, they run their course, and we have a little bit of mileage left on this one, but I do think it turns around.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'll be canceled tomorrow. Again. So,
Joe, what's the most someone's ever tried to cancel you?
No, I've gotten random messages from people being like, "You're following this person. I don't know if you're aware that you were following this person,
right?"
But that's that's most of the worst. I've gotten. I've also seen occasionally, not that often, but every once in a while you'll see someone tweeting something, and they're always some loser who's never actually done anything. It's always just like, I've seen that person on this thing talking with this person, so I think that's pretty bad. So like, and actually, there was one time I did a live stream promoting Beckstar on Near Mint Condition with Omar. He's a great guy. He has a great show.
There's no controversy with Omar.
Yeah, and Mad Cave staff is in the chat. My brother is in the chat, and some guy starts going off about, like, that guy's from CG. He's a bad person. I've seen him talk to bad people. And that guy Perch, even though he says he's not a bad person, he's actually a bad person.
I'm a bad person. I say it all the time. I'm terrible.
That was upset, because it's like, dude, I got like family in this chat, like watching this. I've got my, the people I work with, and it's like, and also I'm clearly not, like, I've made it like I have no interest in being part of a group where I have to defend other people I don't know for things they say. That's not my thing.
Yeah, I can defend the problem with all these groups.
Yeah,
I can't sign up for everybody else. What the fuck am I doing? I mean, well, first of all, I'm too lazy, and I don't know these people. These people are weird.
Yeah, no,
on all the groups, they're very strange, and they have poor facial grooming techniques.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, I've not, like, it's just bizarre to me. It's like, I don't know what more you need. Like, it's like, if you knew, like, my history and all of that, it's like, it's just funny seeing that stuff. It's like, oh, I work with, Black Mask, and I've put together benefit anthologies and, like, things like that. So it's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just
no
very
rhyme or reason
weird
to it. There's no, you can't ever argue your way out of it, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't take logic. It
no, I ended up, I didn't, I didn't do anything. I didn't realize it was happening till after Omar apologized, me being like, because I wasn't paying attention to the chat. I was just doing the interview.
Always smart, yeah.
But no, it was fine. I didn't get any back from it after that. And then the guy eventually, like, disappeared after trying to, drag me, like, for a little bit. But that was really the worst of it. I'm talking to Omar about it, offline. Again, he's very apologetic, and it was like, sorry that this sort of stuff happens. And I won't talk too much more about that, because I don't want to say anything out of that, like Omar said. I don't want to get into that, but
Omar, proud supporter of the Perch channel, who is also CG hyphen adjacent.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I co-wrote. What was it? I brought, like, Rachel Pollack back into comics. Like,
she's a member of the alt-right, yeah.
Because I'm a horrible alt-right monster who, people like that, people like Mindy Newell, I've worked with Gabby Rivera, Sina Gray's, like, I'm,
maybe everybody should just read the comics and shut the fuck up.
There's something like that, because,
but they should definitely go out and buy Batman White Knight Volume 3.
Bringing it back.
They absolutely should. Well,
no. I'm not.
Beyond
every now and then for the algorithm, but no.
I would say,
don't buy it on eBay though. Right now, get those reprints, because they're coming, right?
Even fucking Bleeding Cool did a piece about why you shouldn't have to pay $30 on eBay to buy this book. This book is plentiful everywhere, and this is just bullshit. And I'm like, thanks, Rich. Like, what do you fucking have against me? What are you trying to do? What's the point of this article?
I'll tell you exactly what he has against you.
Because I went to an interview and
yeah.
What does he have against me? Seriously, I'm asking. What does he have against me?
I think some of his key sources are probably not your biggest fans.
Yeah. I mean, I love whenever they cover anything that's related to me, they bring up some drama with links to everything. And when they bring up any one of the people who are more woke and stepping in line or whatever, that's like, you don't click on any of you don't have any links for their bullshit.
No, it's the same thing with like Ben Templesmith, who's a good. I mean, there's a guy who I think is generally just trying to stay out of drama and get paid. That's his goal. And here's a guy who got whiplash over the Warren Ellis situation. Having talked with him many times, I mean, he's a nice guy, and he just would like to make money. That's it.
Yeah,
simple. And every time Templesmith is mentioned over on that site, they've got, like, Templesmith has had questionable things in the past, like these 18 articles that we've all written that have nothing to do with him, but about vague associations. But every time they plaster that in there. And it's my question is, like, how does anyone think this is helpful to you, even out of self-interest? You're a comic book news site. You survive on comic books being out, so there is news.
Yeah.
You're killing yourself, you dumbass.
They put a review, not a review, but they're talking about the second issue of White Knight, where Dick is a GTO cop, and he's trying to cover up a crime for Terry, which is not what happens at all, by the way. Bleeding Cool got that wrong. But the way they wrote it, it made it sound like I'm in favor of police corruption, and I'm turning love of characters into, whatever. And, like, that, first of all, you haven't read the book. You don't even have it fucking correct. Second of all, you're just trying to drag me into culture war shit that I'm not. I don't know. Give me a fucking break. I mean, I want to find a lawyer just to get. I want Bleeding Cool just to never ever fucking talk about me ever again.
That goes across everyone. Everyone hates that. So I don't know. I know a lot of people. A lot of people who are very adamant about, I won't even check their website. I don't even want them to get hits. Like, he's pretty universally hated.
Yeah, left, right, and center.
Yeah, but it's like, guys, I have patience for idiots all day long, but it's to a point where you're actively trying to hurt my career and my life, my livelihood, and I mean, Jesus Christ, enough is enough, you know.
Ron Mars punched him though, right?
Throthreatened to. I don't know.
Threatened to.
I don't know if he carried through.
That works.
But I do point that out. So I'll allow the people, and I took a decent amount of shit, and I don't think that the people on the Perch's CG adjacent understand the amount of shit I do take from people on the CG side. But that Mars interview, my God, the amount of people were just pissed about that thing existing.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the very least, he also would like to punch Rich in the face.
Yeah. We're all
kind of unify around that.
It's that in Ukraine. I think we all pretty much on the same side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Man, I tell you, it's the CG thing. It is easy to have an opinion and be very black and white when you have 100 followers and your favorite thing to do is be on Twitter and dunk on people. But when you get out in the real world and you have a line of 200 people waiting for hours for idiot me, and every now and then one of them is a CG person and they've been waiting for forever and they don't even know some of the bad things CG has done. And I think that both sides have done bad things. That's not anything outrageous. And what am I going to do? Like, stop him what he's doing and tell him he's a problematic guy and like get him all pissed off? It's like, the best I can do is just be kind, try to sell them something, win them over, and like I'll try to be their favorite liberal ever.
But do they like tell you they're CG?
A few guys did.
That's so weird to me. To be like, I'm part of this group. Like, what the hell? Like,
one guy didn't even really know what it was, and he had a daughter who was adopted Asian daughter who was bisexual, and I'm like, you're CG? And I'm like, hey, that's fantastic. Everyone who's CG is as woke as you. That's fucking great. And I said, well, I don't want to get into it now, but I'm sure there's some people in CG who you wouldn't want your daughter to hang out with. So, I just left it at that. I did an event where, for my Kickstarter, sorry, Joe, where people could pay $500 to hang out with me. And I didn't think anyone was going to buy them, and they did. And COVID hit, but eventually the deal was that, I would buy everybody dinner, I'd buy drinks, and show them around my studio, and they'd come to Maine, and they would be responsible for their own flight and hotel. But so I've had dinner with like 15 people, and the guy that sits down next to me is definitely CG, and he was cool about it. He was just talking about how he loves Joe Rogan, and I listen to Joe Rogan too. So I'm like, that's fine. And I have a lot of conservative friends, so like I know how to handle. It's not even anything to handle. I think most people listening to this are somewhere in the middle. We all have friends at work who don't agree with us, and we're able to maneuver these waters very easily. And chatting with him, like, he did get to a point where he had too much to drink, and he started to get a little weird. And all my other guests saw it, and they were immediately like getting this guy into a cab and getting him out of there. So I had other people like swoop in, and it's not because he's CG; it's just because he had too much to drink, and he was kind of a weirdo on top of that. Otherwise, a nice guy, and I'd invite him back.
But it's so weird to me because one of the things I find that you'll see on that hellscape Twitter, which I really hope Elon just shuts it down. Like, it's not even like just like for the sake of humanity.
Yeah,
and that he wins the Nobel Peace Prize for buying and shutting down Twitter, but. The thing that drives me nuts in this and hear what you say is like the fact like a CG, someone like that would just be like, oh, I'm CG. It's like I see more than anything the idea of like, look at that bozo putting their pronouns in their bio. Well, you can never listen to someone that puts their pronouns in their bio. And then you're out there like just going up to people being like, I identify as CG. And it's like, get the hell out of here.
That's
like,
kind of like
5 people are still listening at this video. You're all pissed off right now. But no, why do you need to identify as any of that? It's weird. I don't know. I grew up, I think this is where Sean and I can bond, probably you as well, Joe, is like, for a long period of time, like calling yourself left, right, Republican, Democrat was like a sign you were a loser. Like these people were all not to be trusted. You, all this stuff was crap. And to suddenly see people lining up to be kind of one direction or the other, it's very weird to me. Like, I don't know. I was raised to mistrust and hate all of these people.
Yeah.
No, I get that.
What happened to the old Henry Rollins kind of mythology of like, punch them all?
I miss the early. I didn't miss it at the time, but in like the early mid 2000s, there was, in the queer community, there was a lot of, oh, I don't like labels. I'm just fluid. I am who I am. I do what I want. And at the time, I was kind of like, I like that attitude to a point, but sometimes you just want something a little more concrete so you can understand where things are going, what people are interested in. And, sometimes
it's the monkey's paw for you.
Yeah, no, but it's great that people, if it helps people, great. If it can help people sort of navigate what they're going through. I'm a queer person. I put my pronouns in my bio, but But a lot of that too, and this is part of it where it's like, you got to understand, as a queer person, I've worked on queer comics. I have a pretty queer comic coming out later this year. I'm very, proud of and excited about.
The clue for me was when you would talk about Tom Holland's ass. I'm just going to.
Yeah, well, Tom Holland has a beautiful dancer's ass. That's what you get when you have a queer dancing. But, but it's like an air conditioner hanging out a window. But it's. But, it helps people in the sense of like, if someone wants to, maybe reach out and do an interview or write up something about the book, having it public and easily available really helps, because that makes it so much easier, because I've had to do stuff like that. I've had to do research, and you don't want to get that stuff wrong in writing for, a blog or a website or posting it somewhere. So that's very, helpful. And I think, people get way too caught up in ideas like, oh, this guy has their, or this person has their, pronouns in their, it's like, look, I'm not telling you to do it if you don't want to, but other people do it, and who cares? Like, don't care then. Like, it's
no.
I don't understand. Yeah, I mean, in my Twitter bio, I had the a line of text that said, DM me that you are reading this and I'll give you $20. And I left that up for 90 days and nobody ever DM me. So I think it's easy just not to give a shit about this stuff. And if it helps you personally, go for it. And if you don't want to pay attention to it, go for it. What does it matter? We
know that this stuff doesn't matter. Like, but it's hard not to talk about it because Twitter is where the conversation is. If we're not in a shop or a show together, it's like, where are we all? Where's the hangout? And the hangout is on Twitter. And it's like, oh man, I mean, the amount of brain power I spend, the amount of calories I burn thinking about the LGBT stuff and people who've got it wrong and right. How do I maneuver it as a straight white dude? And should I have a gay character? Like, it's insane. And it's not actually. Are you okay there, Joe?
No, I just hit my knee.
Okay.
It's fine.
He hates what you say. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, I feel like such a fool for wasting so much time with this bullshit that doesn't matter. But I still end up thinking about it anyway. And I don't know.
It's hard because it does draw you in. And the funny part is, and somebody had, one of the people who wrote in and sent me a mail was talking about, with all the tension and focus on this, has it actually made life worse? Like, to you, as you're talking about thinking these things through so you could represent characters properly in your comic, or, how do I do this in just the right way? Yep. Do you think you would have had better representation or more well-rounded stuff in your comic if Twitter didn't exist and you just went naturally with what you knew?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so African American Robin, would I have him putting on the suit? Do I make a comment or do I not? If you're on Twitter, you make a comment and you lead with it and you make it a cover and you interview with it, tweet about it, and get everyone to back you. And, that's the way I think you would, if you're going to go that way, that's how you'd handle it. And if you're not on Twitter, you wouldn't know to do any of that stuff. I would just talk to a Black friend of mine and ask him, like, does this work for you? Is this anything? Am I missing anything here? Am I going to get attacked for whatever? And that's just I think people can tell your heart's in the right place, and it's not anything really to be concerned about. But yeah, having Twitter in your brain as part of your MO changes everything, and it's not healthy. If maybe that answers your question. Yeah. But we already know that, though. It's in Star Trek, when they're worried about technology on other planets fucking up civilizations that aren't ready for it, I think Twitter was created by aliens just as a silent bomb to destroy, like stage one, to blow ourselves up. It's just Twitter hatred. We're clearly not ready for this or wired for it.
It's the Russians. Yeah. That's what it all is. I don't know. It's a strange time, and as we've talked about all this, I don't know. We covered a lot of stuff here.
Yeah. The one last thing I'll say, and I got to get out of here, is so we have lists that go around of people we should block, people you need to be careful of, and all that stuff. And I know you guys have both seen lists.
Yeah, I'm on most of those lists. Yeah,
I'm starting to see a list of people who are going to burn out, like people who have been in comics for a while, created their own list. They're like, oh, we see you, new writer, new artist. We see your behavior on Twitter, and there's almost no one's placing bets yet, but I've seen a list of people saying, like, how many years until Donny Cates just burns out or something happens, or you see some people are really active on Twitter who are really aggro about a lot of this stuff, and people who are old timers are sort of sitting back and being like, I predict you to be on this arc, and I think you're about 2 years in before you're about to be tossed out for some reason. Have you guys seen that list?
I mean, I've seen conversations along those lines, and it's always the same names. But yeah, I mean, more and more people are starting to talk about this, and not from like, this isn't a bunch of like CG people passing around a list of creators. This is actually in the mainstream pros. People probably who would surprise you, who are some of the names I think we've mentioned tonight, who have this list of people that they think are burnouts, that they think are I wouldn't get involved in a project with these people because I think they're right about to implode.
Yeah.
And that's, I've seen, and I've had people reach out to me who, won't do other things on the show, but ask about, certain creators to say, hey, this person over here, are they giving you off a weird vibe as well? Like what's going on? And
it must fucking kill you that pros reach out to you secretly, and they don't want to be associated with you, but they certainly want your information and your advice and your know-how to help guide them.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think a lot of, most people would come on. I'm going to choose to be Pollyanna here and just believe that, some of these people really are busy. And, and I'm busy too. I've been very hard to get a hold of this year.
Yeah, you have been.
I have. I'm being a complete dick.
We still haven't recorded that Jimmy Olsen retro.
Yep. We got to do that. I've got to, every time I've got a spare moment, Millar's not free and vice versa. So we've had that bouncing around. So there's a lot of stuff I need to get to, but it's been a weird, rough year.
Yeah.
It's been a bouncy year, but I hope, I hope some people go check out the book. It is a great book.
Thanks.
And I'm glad to see it's a lot of fascinating things here tonight. Now we'll all let this kind of sit and figure out how much we want to edit.
And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. Perch recently, moved for a job, so presumably to make more money, and is complaining about how hard it is of a year for him while there's a ground war in Europe.
Yeah, how dare you, Perch? How dare life go on?
Yeah, no, I mean, these are first world problems for sure. Oh no, I don't have enough time to do comic interviews.
Yeah. When I was pushing my book, it was when the Ukraine stuff hit, and I should I not talk about Batman right now? Like, it just seems like so dumb to talk about stupid comics when there are severe problems in the planet right now. And I don't know. I mean, I think I waited a day or two, and it's just like, you have to keep going forward. Like, it sucks, but you just have to keep moving forward. You have to show up to work. You have to keep making money. You have to keep selling. I mean, I don't know. It just feels icky sometimes, though.
No, it certainly does, and it's hard to get your head around that stuff. Yeah. There are a lot of tough things going on. A lot of people going through tough things, but it also there's a lot of people who also, that happy part in their life is actually going to that comic shop and picking up a book, Maybe it's White Knight. Maybe it's New Mutants. Maybe it's who knows what. And I was going to make a bad joke in there, but no, it could be any comic.
I was waiting for that title that's obviously not good that you hate, and you just skip over it.
Yeah. But they're finding their enjoyment in there, and so it's maybe this stuff is a good when it's a good escapist distraction, it's a good thing. Yeah. But Sean, thank you for all the time tonight. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you guys, appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for answering my question.
All right, we'll keep in touch. Thanks everybody for sticking out and listening to all this kind of crazy stuff, and we got to figure out how to top this. It's gonna be a hard one to top.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. You travel well, guys.
See you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was a little mean. That's